All right, folks, we're back. We got some updates coming up centered around the shooting in Minneapolis. Come on in, folks. That's crazy. This is the situation. Come on in. We have a press conference update by Commander Greg Bavino, along with Tim Walz, who are going to be speaking here, maybe at the same time. And we're going to listen in and find out what's going on and what's the latest, right? It's another day of chaos. A lot of talk last night after the aftermath of the shooting, the Border Patrol shooting of Alex Pretti, 37-year-old ICU nurse, worked at the Veterans Hospital, what's said Veterans Hospital, Minnesota. It's the third ICE shooting in just a matter of weeks. 2 dead, including him and Renee Good. And Bavino's going to speak again in the next 10 minutes. And Tim Walz is going to speak. I think they coordinated this to go at the same time. Walz speaking in a press conference and Bavino speaking in a press conference. We don't know what either of them are going to say, but I'm sure both are doubling down and tripling down in their positions and what they have to say about the situation. Minneapolis, I started out with the feed of the shooting. It's a terrible situation. What happened? What happened? Maybe we'll get some information about what happened. What do you think happened? What side do you believe? We're going to hear a press conference update of the continuing chaos in Minneapolis. Now, it doesn't seem like there's anything going crazy right now. But you know what I've noticed, though, with a continuing pattern when these things happen is as soon as someone speaks, then it rallies the people. It's like a dog whistle, particularly on the Minneapolis side. But we shall see. The feed is up. Commander Greg Bavino holds press conference in Minneapolis following the killing of Alex Pretti. Is it Pretti or Pretty? Pretti. Let's just say Pretti. Alex Pretti. Alex Pretti. So Bavino is going to be speaking here, and then also Walz is speaking at the exact same time. So we'll listen in on Bavino first. We'll stay with Bavino, and then we'll go to Walz. So whoever comes, we'll just whoever comes first. If Walz goes before Bavino, we'll put on Walz because they got like multiple feeds up, and they're 2 separate locations. One was supposed to speak at 1:50, but it's interesting they do it at the same time. Just like what we saw yesterday with Kristi Noem at one place at the FEMA Center, and they had the 2 U.S. senators and Jacob Fry at another location. It's a complete, people are saying Minneapolis is a complete war zone right now. It is a tinderbox. It's a powder keg. It's a very fluid, wild situation. We will cover it here live. All the twists and turns. Every day we talk about this topic. Every day. Are you getting fatigued? Are you getting sick of it? You wish this would all just go away and we could talk about other things? I think everyone's getting just, I mean, are we getting to the brink of civil war here because of Minneapolis? Man, everybody has chimed in. We're talking about former presidents. Barack Obama put out a statement, Kamala Harris, Trump administration officials, senators, politicians from both sides of the aisle have put out numerous statements. Athletes had spoke about this. And it's mostly partisan, right? If you're a Democrat, you're going to support the Minneapolis people. And if you are a Republican, you support ICE and Border Patrol. That's pretty much where it's at. It is. It is. And then possible talk of Insurrection Act. National Guard is in Minneapolis. They are there. There's so many footage and images of Humvees and different vehicles in this particular zone that they now set up, a no-go zone for vehicle traffic. We are at a press conference with Greg Bovino, and Tim Walz will speak. So I got these up in the pipeline. We'll listen in and find out exactly what's the latest, where this all is going. Will Bovino change his tune a little bit? Maybe Walz change his tune a little bit. Maybe somebody coming forward saying we need to work with the other side. I've been hearing the Trump administration say these things in press conferences. We just want Walz and Jacob Fry to work with us. What's going to be said remains to be seen. Cold up there in Minneapolis today. Once again, Sunday, cold. We shall see. We shall see. Press conference. Here, I'll change the banner. I'll put press conference. Press Bovino. Bovino press conference. Minneapolis, live. See a lot of people coming in the chat. Welcome aboard. We were covering storms this morning, and I hope everyone is okay in the weather-wise. I hope you're okay out there, all of you. And then I saw, oh, boom, boom, back-to-back press conferences. I'm like, ooh, okay, this is juicy. This is going to be interesting. Oh, it actually is above 0 in Minneapolis right now. The current temperature in Minneapolis, Minnesota is 1 degree. It made it past 0. It hadn't been 0 in a couple of days. 1 degree. 1 degree. Who's going to go first? Walz or Bovino? Let me get another feed just and see. Get everything set up. Everything's set up for Walz. I'll tell you what. I got 2 feeds. Whoever goes first, we're going to it. So, got both them up. Whoever goes first, we will go to it. So just let me know if you see in the chat any movement of who goes first, because I have to keep refreshing screens and things. Whoever goes first. A lot of people piling in. Y'all are very concerned. I'm very concerned. I am extremely concerned here where this all goes. Minneapolis, absolutely. Absolutely. The shooting, it's unfortunate. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad the shooting happened. But once again, should people come to these locations and disrupt ICE? Disrupt Border Patrol? Disrupt their operations? Is that acceptable? What do you think? Or is that peaceful protesting? There's a lot of videos. There was actually another raid today in Minneapolis. So let me try to compile these clips. There was another incident today at another location. ICE is still out there. Border Patrol is still out there. They're still out there. They're still out there doing ICE enforcement today. It appears. Standoff in Minneapolis. There was a place called the City View Apartments. and protesters confront Border Patrol and ICE during an attempted raid today at the City View Apartments. We got things going on still. City View Apartments, wherever they are. There was a clash today in the snow. Despite the riots, Border Patrol is still out conducting raids in Minneapolis. They're still there. Totally ignoring Tim Walz's calls to leave the state. Some people speculated that they were like, well, will Border Patrol and ICE tone it down a little bit? Still there, but just tone it down. Well, they were out there doing things today, and a mob of people confronted them at the apartment complex today, City View Apartments. What's going on? Another day, another press conference. All right, both feeds, nobody yet. It is now 2:02. We've scheduled. Well, hold on, maybe oh, no. I think Walls might be coming up here. Maybe. Kind of like tit for tat. It's like tit for tat, literally. One gives a press conference, the other one does the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang. We got a presser coming up, folks. It is 1 degree in Minneapolis. Oh, Cornell West. Cornell West chiming in. Oh, hold on. Walls is up. Walls is up. First, we're going to Walls. We're going to Walls. Walls is up. Here we go.
Good afternoon. Today I'm joined by Attorney General Ellison, Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Solicitor Corrections Commissioner Paul Snell. Thanks everybody for joining us again. We're now about 24 hours from the killing of Alex. And during that time of everything that's happened, I hope everyone's taking away a picture of a life of generosity, service-oriented, and his life's coming into clearer focus. I had the privilege of talking with Michael and Susan, Alex's parents, yesterday, and the heartache in the hours after your son's murdered in front of the world is one thing, but what stood out to me was a parent's desire and their passion to make sure that the story of Alex was told. Someone who went to work to care for veterans, someone who was a valued coworker, someone who relished and lived in this state in a big way, whether it was outdoor activities or being down there on the street as a First Amendment witness to what ICE is doing to this state. So once again, to Michael and Susan, when I talk to these parents, it's always in deep confidential conversation. In this one, though, Michael was very clear to me. He said, don't let them forget Alex's story. The world knows how he died. He died at the hands of ICE agents on the streets of Minneapolis. They want us to make sure we said how he lived. So to Michael and Susan, our deepest sympathies, but you have my commitment to continue to tell that story. So now we've got 2 Minnesotans dead. We had time to start telling Renee's story of a poet and a mother and a bright spirit, and now we're telling Alex's story. So my question is, what's the plan, Donald Trump? What is the plan? What do we need to do to get these federal agents out of our state? You thought fear, violence, and chaos is what you wanted from us, and you clearly underestimated the people of this state and nation. We are tired, but we're resolved. We're peaceful, but we'll never forget. We're angry, but we won't give up hope. And above all else, we are clearly unified. If it was the intention of Donald Trump to make an example of Minnesota, then I'm damn proud of the example that the world's seeing. We believe in law and order in this state. We believe in peace. And we believe that Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person. And we're up here telling another story of a Minnesotan just trying to live their life without the interference. To Americans who are watching this right now, and I don't know, maybe you're watching it with curiosity, bewilderment, horror, scorn, or sympathy. I've got a question for all of you. What side do you want to be on? The side of an all-powerful federal government that can kill, injure, menace, and kidnap its citizens off the streets? Or on the side of a nurse at the VA hospital who died bearing witness to such government? Or the side of a mother whose last words were, "I'm not mad at you"? The side of tens of thousands of peaceful citizens who showed up to march when the wind chill was 40 below because they love this state and they love this country. You're allowed to decide at any point that you're not with this anymore. If you voted for this administration, heck, even if you thought Operation Metro Surge was a good idea, sounded like the thing to do a month ago, you're still allowed to look at what's happening here in Minnesota and say, this isn't what I voted for and this isn't what I want. I ask you not to stand by idly. Speak out, share what you're seeing, and urge others to put politics aside. We're no longer having a political debate, we're having a moral debate. We all want secure borders and immigration enforcement that prioritizes criminals. And I want to thank the press, especially the local press, who has done a deep dive to show that's exactly what Minnesota does. But what you're seeing is not common sense, lawful, or humane enforcement. That's not what this occupation is about. Let me say our conversation should not be about, and I know we get asked of what we're doing on there, how many state patrol or police or National Guard I can put on the street. This isn't about how many people I can put on the street. It's about how many of these people, these ICE agents and whoever else was thrown into this unholy mess, how many Donald Trump can get out of here. Minnesotans, you've won the hearts and minds of people across this country, and you've done it through your peaceful, resolved defense of your neighbors and the Constitution. So once again, Minnesotans, stay peaceful, stay safe. Change is coming and we can feel it. But this fight still goes on. And I'm just glad today to be joined in person because it's someone who's been at the side of Minnesotans throughout this and through every other thing we've gone through over the last 7 years. Someone who we describe as the people's lawyer, someone who is fighting this battle for the Constitution, for the safety of Minnesotans in courts every single day. I want to give this over to Attorney General Keith Ellison to talk a little bit about what's going on with the state on some of the lawsuits and what our expectations are in the coming days. Attorney General.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Walz, thank you for your excellent leadership during this very, very difficult time, this unprecedented time, Governor, because quite honestly, there's never been a deployment of immigration agents this size in the history of the United States. There have been times in American history where they've deported a lot of people, but a concentrated deployment of ICE agents in one state in one period of time is unprecedented. And therefore, there's no playbook. And therefore, nobody knows exactly how to deal with this situation, but it is unique and particularly puzzling, given that Minnesota does not have the highest immigration in the United States, given that Minnesota has a very, very professional community of law enforcement professionals who are taking care of the safety of our state, given the fact that the Department of Corrections, pursuant to state law, hands over people who ICE is looking for and they have proper paperwork for. Given all of that, this is a very curious situation and would reasonably lead someone to ask why. So let me talk about Alex Pretti. Alex Pretti was a nurse at the VA. I happen to have a son who's 31 years old, who spent 5 years in the United States military as a combat medic. But toward the end of his deployment and the end of his service, he wanted to go into nursing, and so he did, and ended up getting an RN degree and works in the healthcare system here in Minnesota. And when he was at work today and last night, he said, look, my colleagues were crying and in tears, and they took this hit to one of their own very personally. And he said, I did too. He said, I didn't find myself shedding tears, but I could have, because I just was brokenhearted, because I know the service that he and the love and compassion he puts into taking care of the people he took care of at the VA. So, an intensive care nurse, kind, compassionate person to friend and family, described by coworkers as the first person who would jump in to help. He was our neighbor, and he should still be with us right now. So let me just note that Superintendent Drew Evans of the BCA, another exemplary professional in our state, he is the BCA is the state's investigative agency, and it is their job to investigate crime. They have a specialized unit to investigate the use of force cases. They arrived on site after the shooting and were refused access. They then secured a judicial warrant, a warrant signed by a judge, which has never been needed before, and were still refused access. This is uncharted territory. Now, friends, this comes at the tail end of other offenses, like a shooting in North Minneapolis and another homicide in South Minneapolis, Renee, Nicole Good, where they also were denied access to the scene, and investigators are, to this moment, still being denied access to the investigative file. This is not a rash decision for us to go to court and to seek a temporary restraining order from a judge to preserve evidence and prevent the destruction of evidence. I don't care if you're conservative, liberal, or whatever, but you should at least be in favor of conserving evidence in a homicide. And to have to go get an order from a judge to preserve that evidence is extraordinary and should alarm everyone who believes in equal justice under the law, and who believes that every person, no matter how this case ultimately is resolved, deserves to have their case investigated to get to the truth of what happened. This is an extraordinary moment in an unprecedented time, and we're doing all we can to step up to that moment. My office represents the BCA and joined the Hennepin County Attorney's Office in a lawsuit last night, as you know, and we moved to prevent the destruction and or tampering with evidence related to Alex Pretti's shooting. And this includes any evidence the federal agents took from the scene of the shooting, preventing the state authorities from inspecting it. We've never had to do anything like this before. Never before. We filed that motion last night and for a temporary restraining order, asking the court to take immediate action to preserve the evidence. And last night, within 2 hours of the filing, a judge granted the motion. The Department of Homeland Security and the federal government are now enjoined from destroying or altering evidence related to yesterday's shooting. The fact that anyone would ever think that an agent of the federal government might even think about doing such a thing was completely unforeseeable only a few weeks ago. Yeah. But now, this is what we have to do. As we said in our filing last night, the irreparable harm we would suffer if the federal government were allowed to destroy evidence is so weighty that any harm to the federal government does not even budge the scales in a court balancing of the scales. It's imperative that we preserve as much evidence as possible so that the state investigators are allowed to access the evidence to ensure a fair, thorough investigation. And I will say, I've heard not one single law enforcement or investigative agent in the state of Minnesota say that they won't share information with the federal government. I've heard quite the opposite from the federal government. Now, Operation Metro Surge. As I noted when I started, this appears to be the largest single deployment or surge of immigration agents in the history of the country. And as a result, tremendous damage has been inflicted upon our state. We've had 2 killings within 2 weeks in an additional non-lethal shooting. We've had countless numbers of people who have been stopped and had the demand for their papers, to have to show their papers in America. We've had door-to-door knocks where people have their homes barged into without cause of right. And we've had stores have to shutter, students not going to school. We've had reduction in employees going to their job sites. We've had jobs being, little markets being shut down, restaurants being interfered with. We've had a countless number of harms. And so we took the action of suing the federal government over Operation Metro Surge. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to be in federal court with my team arguing for a restraining order against Operation Metro Surge. I filed this case almost 2 weeks ago, and this will be our first hearing. The lawsuit we filed is one that is caused by the unprecedented nature of this surge. It is a novel abuse of the Constitution that we're looking at right now. No one can remember a time when we've seen something like this, when a state can marshal facts to show that our targeting is not based on excessive amounts of undocumented immigrants or anything like that, but we're targeted because of politics, which violates our First Amendment rights. The 10th Amendment, which we are entitled as a state to equal sovereignty, and we have been denied that. The federal government is literally commandeering and coercing the state of Minnesota to bend to its will, which is the prerogative of the people of the state of Minnesota. Let me remind everybody, let me take everybody back to 8th grade civics. The states predate the United States and came into the Union preserving their rights as states to be the states that the citizens of those states want them to be within a constitutional framework. It is at the fundamental, it is in the DNA of American history that the federal government cannot trample over the prerogatives of the state. And that is exactly what is happening here, and that is exactly why we're going to court. This surge has drained local law enforcement time and resources. Jacob Fry, if he were here, could tell you that they've spent north of $2 million on overtime responding to ICE. They damage our economy, hurt our education system, and terrorize community members. And it must stop, and tomorrow is a big step in that direction. Now, as I noted a moment ago, people will ask, well, why Minnesota? I'll say this. Minnesota is dealing with targeted oppression from the federal government because of who we are and who we value. Minnesota is a place where we welcome the stranger. We have a number of nonprofits that focus on refugee resettlement in Minnesota. Minnesota is a place where we take care of the vulnerable among us. We're a state that just passed paid family leave. We're a state that believes in feeding our kids who are in school, and we're a state that believes that Minnesota is a great place to live for everyone, no matter where you were born. Of course, we obey all laws, but we still believe that immigration is not a sin. They're coming after our state, in my view, because of what we stand for, because we voted 3 times in favor of somebody not Donald Trump, which he has publicly said he resents deeply and believes is not even true. I can tell you it's not about fraud. Because if he sent people who understand forensic accounting, we'd be having a different conversation. But he's sending armed, masked men. This is a pretext and it's not supported by the facts at all, which has brought us to court challenging the justification that the president has offered. For those watching around the country, I would submit to you that just as Portland and Chicago and LA were precursors to Minneapolis, Minneapolis is a precursor to a whole lot of other places that they have their eye on right here, right now, including Maine and several other states. If we don't stop this behavior here, it will only expand, and it won't be good for anyone in our country. Minnesota is staying strong, and I want to join Governor Walz in my just pride in being a Minnesotan. No football game victory could ever make me feel as good about our state as I do about people standing up, helping their neighbors, engaging in mutual aid, giving each other rides different places, making sure that there's enough groceries, protesting, using their First Amendment rights. This state has a lot of spirit, and Minnesota nice is a real thing. I wasn't fortunate enough to be born in Minnesota. I was born and grew up in Michigan. And I can tell you that this state has a lot of nice people. It really does. And a lot of people who believe in taking care of their neighbor and welcoming the stranger. And as we see right now, resisting tyranny. So I just want to say that as the courage of protesters and others who are helping their neighbors is so evident on the streets of this great state of ours, we at the Attorney General's office and in Minnesota state government can do no less than match the courage you have already shown. And we will not back down, we won't blink, we won't bow. We will stand firmly on our constitutional rights and in favor of Minnesotans. We will do that in the ballot box, at the courts. We will do that in the streets in a peaceful, legal, First Amendment protected way. And we will do it in a multitude of ways. But one thing we will not do is we will not back down and we will not bend. And so let me wrap up by saying this. We will never forget Alex Pretti. We will never forget Renee Nicole Good, and we will never forget any of the Minnesotans who have suffered so unjustifiably in this time. Minnesota is a great place. That is why I believe we've been targeted, but it's not going to work. And we'll be in court tomorrow arguing for the rights of every Minnesotan to stand up and be the generous, courageous people that we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. We'll be glad to take some questions, folks. Tom?
Well, we've got a letter from Attorney General Pam Bondi making several demands, I guess you would call them, regarding sanctuary cities, regarding fraud and voter rolls. Your response to that, and is there anything you can do to meet the Trump administration, at least part of the way, to try to turn this temperature down?
Well, first of all, it's not a serious attempt, and the Attorney General sent that in. I would thank the local folks and Commissioner Snell. A great thank you to you and your team over there. In that letter, they talked about, you need to hand people over who are in your jails. They're taking credit for people that we've had in jail for a long time. We always hand them over, and the commissioner very clearly. So they're lying. They're lying. This has nothing to do with fraud, as the Attorney General said. They're not sending us forensic accountants, and these are things that have been we're dealing with now and have been for quite some time. So look, it's not a serious attempt to get at this. The way to fix this is get these folks out of here. We've continued to work with them. They asked us for these numbers. We provided them. We continue to show, and they're not serious. And look, I think everybody understands what the last request was, totally unrelated to anything on the voter files. This is, again, as the Attorney General said, Donald Trump telling everybody that the election was rigged, who started all this nightmare for America. Has nothing to do with it. And I would just give a pro tip to the Attorney General. There's 2 million documents in the Epstein files we're still waiting on. Go ahead and work on those.
This is for you or the Attorney General. If they're not honoring judicial warrants, how can you trust that they're going to be honoring this temporary restraining order?
Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked it because, since Trump 2 began, and even including Trump 1, we filed a lot of lawsuits. We're north of 50 now, and they've been on everything from birthright citizenship to SNAP to things like the National Institute of Health to EV to all kinds of things. And they've been complying with the orders. Now, I will say the foot drag, we've had to threaten them with contempt a few times. And I'm not saying that the compliance has been good. I am saying that open defiance of court orders is not something that we've experienced. And so I have every reason to believe that they will obey the court order. Now, if they don't, we have recourse and we'll pursue that recourse. On a deeper level, your question, I would simply say this. Just because they may not do the right thing does not absolve us of the responsibility of doing the right thing. We're going to seek legal recourse, and if they disobey a court order, then that's on them. But we're going to seek those orders, and we're going to insist that they be followed.
Local sheriffs have said they lack the legal authority to honor ICE detainers, and that's something that Attorney General Ellison has said as well. They lack the authority under Minnesota law. Is that an authority you could just give them? Could you pass a law, not prisons, but county sheriffs and jails?
So really, the key issue here is I think most sheriffs in the state do fully honor ICE detainers and provide notification. The issue becomes when they have a lawful reason to be released, bail, released by judicial order. The jail cannot hold that person beyond that point in time. That's the fundamental issue. There is not a lack of cooperation. There is just some legal boundaries. We've had some conversations with ICE about this. We think that there may be some things that could be worked out, but I don't think that's the core issue that we're really dealing with here.
Can I simply say that it puts Minnesota in a very difficult position, because if such a person were held beyond a period of time when the state court has the authority to hold them, then the state court is exposing itself to liability. So ICE just has to show up and do its job.
That's the fundamental question here. And that's the fundamental argument they keep making. We cooperate. We don't do their job. You saw it this week with rural conservative Cottonwood County. Sheriff had someone, told them this person's time is done. We can't just hold them indefinitely. It's against the law. So we're going to release this guy. Come and get him. They're too busy up here doing what they did yesterday to go pick up someone who actually should be removed from this country. And I don't know how many times they try and confuse the people across this country. It's their job to do immigrations and customs enforcement. It's law enforcement's job to do law enforcement in Minnesota. They are not doing immigration enforcement, saying we should be doing that, while they're apparently now trying to do extrajudicial law enforcement on our streets. So this is a red herring. It's untrue. The Attorney General of the United States put falsehoods into a letter she sends to me that we are doing what's asked of us, but we're not going to do your job for you. We have other things we need to do.
Attorney General, how concerned are you, getting back to the evidence in the Pretti
Right.
case, that you might not get access to his camera footage and that you might not get to the bottom of whether he was carrying an ID or not?
I am deeply concerned about the preservation of evidence, which is why we went to court last night. But I have faith in Judge Tonsrud's order that it will be followed, and I can tell you that Minnesota officials are going to do everything we can to get to the truth. And again, as a prosecutor, I am not allowed to say what the final outcome is going to be. We have to get the evidence and find out. But if you're asking me, Tom, if I'm concerned, you better believe I am concerned. But look, they've got the order. Now they're going to defy the court if they don't follow it.
As a quick follow, you met with Vice President Vance when he was in town on Thursday, I understand.
I did.
Can you tell us about what the tenor of that meeting was? His goal was to turn down the temperature. 2 days later, there was the shooting.
Well, I guess it didn't work, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Governor Walz and I were in Congress together for 12 years before both of us went to go serve in the state government. We're used to talking to these folks. Why not see if there's something that can be arrived at? I can tell you that it was a polite meeting. I can also tell you that I walked out of there thinking that we probably weren't going to get anywhere. Because quite honestly, a few hours late, not even hours, a few minutes later, he just got up there and just articulated the same talking points he made to me in the meeting. I tried to correct him. He didn't want to hear that. And so I'm like, well, welcome to Minnesota. Thank you very much. You both of us have things to do. So see you later. And I left. It was cordial enough, but it was not fruitful. But look, I just think that, and I'm sure the governor agrees, if you can try to talk to somebody sensibly, we do. But that one didn't get where we had hoped.
Let's do one more minute. Oh, yeah. Lauren Gurley here from the Washington Post. Do you know if federal agents who were directly around Pretti during the time of the shooting are still out on the street in Twin Cities or anywhere else in Minnesota? Any of them?
Don't know.
Don't know. They don't talk to us. They don't tell us. They don't.
With the BCA being denied access to the scene after getting a warrant, is there recourse for them that way, or do you feel that this restraining order that you obtained requiring the federal government to preserve evidence is that recourse?
So there are certain legal strategy decisions that I'm not at liberty to just go on about in a meeting like this one. What I can tell you is that both the warrant and the TRO are evidence of our resolve. And we are going to get to the truth of what happened to Mr. Alex Pretti and to the truth of what happened to Renee Good. And that's what we're pledging. And we're going to use every legal means to do that. So I can't tell you, I'm not at liberty to tell you what you're asking me, but I am here to assure the public and who's listening that we are going to get to the truth of this matter, and we won't be deterred and we won't be denied.
Just a quick one for Jackson. We did see BCA agents at the shooting scene this morning. Can you confirm what they were doing there?
Absolutely. The question is about whether or not the BCA agents were on the scene of the shooting this morning, and they were continuing to collect evidence that they've seen. They're also doing some canvassing of the neighborhoods. I don't want to get any more of the investigative process in this, but at the BCA, we are going to continue to investigate this shooting based on whatever evidence we're able to get, and we appreciate the Attorney General assisting us with the temporary restraining order to make sure that the federal government is retaining evidence that will be available, we would assume, to us at a later time. But the investigation will not pause. We are continuing to work on anything and everything that we possibly can.
I'm just going to close. I'm going to close with one thing that I promised the parents with Michael and Susan. And I speak to all Americans on this over these last 24 hours, what you saw. You're now knowing more about this young man, beloved by his family, accomplished ICU nurse, skillful in ability to work with veterans, someone who's beloved by community, no criminal record, lawful firearms owner. And you know what you saw. And then you heard the most powerful people in the world, certainly in this country, President, Vice President, Greg Bovino, Kristi Noem, narrate to you what you were looking at, that this was a domestic terrorist, crazed, running at law enforcement with the intent to kill massive numbers of them, sullying his name within minutes of this event happening, and then closing the crime scene, sweeping away the evidence, defying a court order, and not allowing anyone to look at it. I don't care if you are conservative and you are flying a Donald Trump flag, you're a libertarian, don't tread on me, you're a democratic socialist of America. This is an inflection point, America. If we cannot all agree that the smearing of an American citizen and besmirching everything they stood for and asking us not to believe what we saw, I don't know what else to tell you. This has to be the moment. Your government, here in Minnesota, I've made it clear, I'm accountable for things that happen here, and I will take responsibility for that. Someone has to be accountable. Someone has to hold the final decision on this. And sitting behind a keyboard at 2 a.m. and besmirching a VA nurse and a son and a coworker and a friend is despicable beyond all description. This is not, we need to see both sides. This is not, we need to wait for this. This is basic human decency. And at this point in time, I'm just asking, try for a moment to set aside the political side of it and go back and ground in the humanity of this. This family has gone through enough, and to have the most powerful man in the world drag their dead son with absolutely no evidence and gaslight the entire country, this is enough. And I would say, President Trump, you can end this today. Pull these folks back. Do humane, focused, effective immigration control. You've got the support of all of us to do that. Let our law enforcement continue to do what they do, making Minnesota one of the safest states in the country, one of the best places to live. Allow our children to go back to school. We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And there's one person who can end this now. And I'll go back to it again. Please show some decency, pull these folks out, reset this situation, and allow us to do the job that the Attorney General, myself, were elected to do, protect the people of Minnesota and carry out the laws of Minnesota. We'll be back with you when we get more information.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Hey, all right. What do you think? That's Tim Walz. Bavino spoke. We got the Bavino one too, but I just want to show you what's happening. We're going to switch up here and go to a scene. Oh, whoa. What do you think about Walz and Keith Ellison speaking? Looks like there's going to be some lawsuits or something going on with the courts to maybe stop Operation Metro Surge. We have a live look. Look at this, folks. We have a location, and we have a massive group of people in the Minneapolis area. It looks like there's also some speakers down there. Chaos erupts. That was some crazy stuff, though, saying whether you agree with them or not. Does this sound like they want to work with the Trump administration? What are they asking for? They're asking for pretty much his last sentences, Walz. Reset, pull back, reset, work with us. He literally referred the Trump administration to Nazis because he talked about the diary of Anne Frank. He said people are hiding. My goodness. The chaos continues, folks. Breaking. We're going to say breaking news, chaos. 1 degree out there. So this is a scene out here. This is not on 26th Street. Looks like this is downtown Minneapolis. Whew. In a moment, I'm going to be playing Bovino when he spoke. Let me get that up in the pipeline here. I got to make sure I find. See, what happens is with a lot of these feeds, volume on some, we started out, it was really low. I had to find another feed with better volume. So I want to make sure I get these volumes right. All right, I got a good one with the volume with Bovino. ICE out of Minnesota. We'll hear what Bovino has to say here in the next minute. And I don't know what the situation is here. Also, it seems like Walz and Ellison is calling for the whole nation to fight back, because he's like pretty much saying if they can do it here, they're going to do it everywhere around the country. Wild stuff. All right, so let's play Bovino. Get Mr. Greg Bovino up. See what Bovino has to say. So I'm going to get this all up in the pipeline. Make sure we get it right when he speaks. We'll go right here. All right. It's Bovino time. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Bovino, Commander at Large for CBP Assets here in Minneapolis. I'd like to take a few moments here before we take questions and before I hear from my colleague, Mr. Marcos Charles, to talk about a subject that I think is very important given the events over the past couple of days. And that topic is the topic of choices. Choices. Now, choosing or making a choice is one of the only true freedoms that any of us really have, is to make a choice. Whether that's the choice to be here today as the media, the choice to go to school, join the military, join law enforcement. Making a choice is a freedom that resides within us. Now, good choices are important in life, as we all know. And many actions that take place are due to our choices. The choice to, say, cross the border illegally, that is a choice that someone makes. To cross the border illegally, that's a choice. The choice not to utilize the CBP Home app, that's a choice. Not standing in line and doing it the right way, that is a choice. And there are always actions that result from our choices. When you choose to use your 5-year-old child as a shield to evade law enforcement, that is a choice that someone makes. And there are actions and consequences that result from that choice. Or when you're a politician or a community leader, you make a lot of choices there, some very important, wide-ranging, and in-depth choices. When, as a politician, if you choose collusion and corruption as a choice, then there are consequences and actions that take place because of that. That's one reason the U.S. Border Patrol and ICE are here in Minneapolis by the thousands, is because of those choices. When politicians, community leaders, and some journalists engage in that heated rhetoric we keep talking about, when they make the choice to vilify law enforcement, calling law enforcement names like Gestapo, or using the term kidnapping, that is a choice that is made. There are actions and consequences that come from those choices. And then when you choose, when someone chooses to listen to a politician, a so-called journalist, a community leader, that spouted that type of vilification towards law enforcement or anything else, when you choose to listen to that, that is a choice, and there are consequences and actions there also. I think we saw that yesterday. And those actions and choices can obviously have tragic consequences, bad outcomes, outcomes that law enforcement never wants to see. Law enforcement never wants to see a bad consequence due to a poor choice. Now, these choices have reverberations throughout society. Let's take a look at, go ahead and put that on the screen, please. Yesterday, Border Patrol agents were engaged in a targeted law enforcement effort to apprehend this individual here, Mr. Jose Huerta Chuma. Look at his criminal record: domestic assault, intentional infliction of bodily harm, disorderly conduct. He's also got some other records there as well. This individual remains at large today. This individual is still roaming the streets today. This is the individual on that targeted law enforcement efforts that Border Patrol agents were engaged in yesterday when they were disrupted, assaulted, and prevented from conducting that Title VIII mission by individuals intent on making the choice to riot, to create anarchy, and to be a violent mob. This individual walks the streets today because of those choices made by politicians and those perhaps weaker-minded constituents that chose to follow directions of those politicians. Sad state of affairs. Now, enforcing the law is not a choice. I choose to be a Border Patrol agent. Mr. Marcos Charles chooses to be an ICE agent, but enforcing the law, that's not a choice. That is a duty. As we all know, those laws were enacted by Congress, signed by the executive, and upheld most of the time by the judiciary. Those are the laws of our land. That is our duty to enforce those laws, whether that's a Title VIII immigration law, whether that's chasing a bank robber or a spy or whatever else. That is our duty, whether it's a state and local law enforcement agency, and they make choices also. Do they support federal law enforcement going after Mr. Jose Huerta Chuma, or do they not? We all make choices. Our Title VIII immigration mission continues. Next slide. Our Title VIII immigration mission continues unabated here in Minneapolis, despite yesterday's tragedy that was preventable by folks making better choices, politicians, journalists, and would-be anarchists and rioters. This individual from Laos was apprehended within the past 24 hours. This operation continues unabated. This is evidence of that. We will continue to make these streets a safer place. It is our duty, because we choose to be Border Patrol agents and ICE agents, to take individuals like that off the streets so we can make Minneapolis and America a safer place. Thank you.
Jose Huerta Chuma, by the way, was in federal immigration.
Hold on questions until the end. Mr. Marcos Charles will talk, and we'll take questions at the end. Ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I know Commander Bovino spoke about yesterday's incident in the situation, but I also want to draw your attention to the continued uptick in violence we're seeing against federal law enforcement officials, not just here, but across the country. Yesterday, here in Minneapolis, a crowd of violent agitators tackled an ICE special agent when one of our special response teams went to assist. A protester literally bit off part of that agent's finger. The officer received immediate medical attention on the scene and was transported to the emergency room for treatment. We do want to thank the people at the hospital for the assistance and the staff who treated our officer. The officer is recovering, but is now permanently maimed and has lost part of his finger. I don't think I have to tell you that this kind of violence is unacceptable. But I also don't think I need to tell you that this kind of violence is not a coincidence. When sanctuary politicians, activists, and the media work hard to create chaos and fear instead of using their platforms to reassure their communities, this is the result. The reality is, and this is what Commander Bovino and I have been talking about all week, we're out here to arrest dangerous criminal illegal aliens so they can't victimize innocent people in our communities anymore. Since the beginning of this operation, we've arrested over 3,400 illegal aliens, removing criminals, gang members, and terrorists out of Minnesota communities, detaining them in ICE custody for removal from the country. Those are criminals who won't reoffend in our communities. Those are criminals who won't be creating more victims that could be one of your family members or loved ones. Some of these criminals that we arrested yesterday are on the scene, or, well, these are our agitators from yesterday, if anybody wants to take a picture of these people or haven't seen them yet. The first picture was the individual who decided to bite off one of our agents' fingers. Some of the criminals we arrested yesterday: 40-year-old criminal illegal alien from Honduras convicted of assault. A 51-year-old criminal illegal alien from Laos convicted of assault also. A 45-year-old criminal illegal alien from the Ukraine convicted of first-degree robbery. And a 46-year-old criminal illegal alien from Laos who was convicted of facilitating child sex crime. ICE officers and agents are out there every day arresting the worst of the worst, so law-abiding citizens in this country and in Minnesota can sleep easy at night. This work isn't about headlines, it's about public safety. We can now take some questions.
Commander Rubino. She was previously in federal immigration custody in 2018 at a jail in Minnesota, and then was released under the Trump administration again in 2018. You talk about choice. That was also a choice to release this individual, the man that you were targeting, obviously, to detain him. So if he was released in 2018 from federal immigration custody, why would that be the case? Why was that choice made?
Yeah, I don't know the particular case in 2018 that you're talking about, but this individual that we want to put that back up there, please. That individual is now an illegal alien. It's my mission to find this illegal alien before he harms another American citizen and does harm. That's what I'm after there. And yet we can go back and look and blame in history. Right now, my mission is to take this individual off the street. And the main point here being is this individual is in the process of being taken into custody. Agitators, rioters, and anarchists prevented us from taking this individual into custody because of a very, very chaotic scene. This individual should be in custody right now, not out on the streets preying on Americans. That is the story that is most poignant here.
Commander Rubino, hi. Angles of the shooting from yesterday, and at no point is he seen Brandon.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
We have seen multiple videos from the incident yesterday from different angles, and at no point do we see Alex Pretti brandishing a weapon. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said that he was brandishing a weapon, and in the video we see him on the ground with his hands on his head. We see an officer leaving what it appears to be with the weapon after he extracted it from Pretti's waist area. Did the officers see the weapon? Did they see him brandishing the weapon at him?
Sure. Many videos out there, many different accounts that you may see, that I may see, that anybody here may see. That, folks, is why we have something called an investigation, to take what you're talking about, to take those videos, to take witness statements, to take officer statements, all those minute details that will paint a true picture, not a freeze frame concept, and paint a larger picture of what really happened. That is why we investigate, so we can get to the truth, so there's not speculation. speculation after 24 hours. You've got a lot of speculation in there. That officer, let's think of what those agents were doing on that scene, making a split-second decision. You've had 24 hours to try and armchair quarterback things. That agent had a split second to make a decision.
Between your agency, Commander.
Who's next?
Commander, was Alex Pretti armed when he was shot?
Again, the investigation is going to uncover all those facts, things like how many shots were fired, where were the weapons located. All those facts are going to come out in the investigation. I wasn't there wrestling that assaultive subject that was assaulting Border Patrol agents. I wasn't there wrestling him myself. So I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to wait for that investigation to come. No, don't interrupt me. I'm going to wait till that investigation comes out until I make a decision there.
If there's an investigation going on and you have not concluded, isn't it possible this was a bad shooting? Or have you already concluded for yourself that this was justified?
I've not concluded anything. I've not given you a conclusion, but what I do know is this individual was on that scene several minutes before that shooting, interfering with a lawful, legal, ethical law enforcement operation to arrest Jose Huerta Chuma. And again, it's back to choices. We just talked about choices. When someone makes the choice to come into an active law enforcement scene, interfere, obstruct, delay, or assault law enforcement officers, and they bring a weapon to do that, that is a choice that individual made.
Commander Bovino, when it comes to the shooting, from what I understand, there were 2 agents who fired shots. We know one of the agents had 8 years experience, and we know he was a less lethal instructor and had this training. What is the other agent? What was his history? And are they both working right now, or are they on administrative leave?
All agents that were involved in that scene are working, not in Minneapolis, but in other locations. That's for their safety. There's this thing called doxing, and the safety of our employees is very important to us. So we're going to keep those employees safe. As far as the number of shots, the number of agents involved, that again is going to come out in the investigation. I'm not going to speculate on who did what, when they did it, how they did it, or what exactly occurred there. I'm going to wait for the investigation to let me know what happened.
Did have 8 years experience, so we are talking about one of the agents. Why not talk about the other who shot as well? Because
before those facts come out, we need to ensure that we're talking truthfully and accurately. And before I speculate, I'm going to talk truthfully and accurately.
Between your agency, Border Patrol, and Mr. Charles, your agency, ICE, we've now seen 2 separate people shot and killed by your officers within 17 days. Do either of you plan on taking any accountability for those actions?
2 suspects, or you're correct, 2 suspects have been shot, and suspects that assault, delay, obstruct, or threaten a law enforcement officer's life. It goes back to the choices that we just talked about. When individuals make poor choices, poor decisions, come into a law enforcement situation, an active law enforcement situation, conspire to come into that situation, whether that's based on ideology, we don't know. That'll be in the investigation that we just talked about. That's what we base the split-second decisions on, and our law enforcement officers are safe. They managed to come home at the end of shift. And, again, I would implore upon any individuals, whether they're anarchists, rioters, or anyone else that thinks it wise to go into a law enforcement scene to disrupt, to delay, is to don't do that. Let's think about that in terms, say a bank robbery is in progress and the police are taking care of that, and then you decide to go in there and perhaps take action. That's not a good idea in any form or fashion. The same thing with Title VIII. Same thing with Title VIII enforcement. We are after an individual with a very serious criminal record. We don't need any help. Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Can you talk about the leaked chat of protesters? Commander.
Hold on. All right. So let me pause this a minute and go over to a live scene right now of a protest taking the streets. What you think? What you think about Greg Bovino and Charles, ICE commander and Border Patrol commander? They have given multiple press conferences together. Choices. That was what he said. Choices. Choices. Interesting. All right. So what we have here is a protest live in the streets of Minneapolis. Chaos erupts. Minneapolis. Breaking. Chaos erupts. Chaos. Minneapolis. There is some footage out here of Border Patrol getting attacked today at another incident. I'm going to see and try to get more details out of that. All right, so they're in the streets of Minneapolis. This was where we were looked at that aerial shot. They have now taken the streets. I'm going to, this is a feed that looks like it's Reuters and The Sun and DRM News. I'm going to put it up here. Also, I want to say that the chief of police spoke to the Sunday Morning News. I'm going to get that up. We're going to hear what the chief has to say. I'm going to see if Mayor Fry had to say anything today on any of the media. So I'm going to keep this up for a bit. We'll monitor this live shot of what's going on in Minneapolis.
You did? What did he say? I think he said he's going to tell him that you're clear. We'll let you know when you're good. Sounds good.
So, folks, this is a march going on right now, a protest march in downtown Minneapolis. Don't know where they're going here, but we'll continue to monitor the situation. There's thousands. There's thousands in the streets here again in Minneapolis, a day after the shooting of Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse. People have taken the streets again. This was that big group that was having that rally there, and they taking the streets. It looks like it's working the back end of that. So hopefully the reporter will follow, and we'll follow where this goes.
Tell me, there's one that's like Washington News Live, or it'll just be me and Deanna. It'll be in Washington Live, something like Washington, D.C.
All right, so I just want to share another update. See, things are moving. There's a lot of moving parts here. So it appears they're going to be holding a press conference. Union leaders call for larger general strike. And now we have a press conference coming up, and I'll turn it to the press conference when it comes up. It's going to be union leaders in the Minneapolis area calling for a national general strike. So they're trying to get this past Minnesota. As we've discussed numerous times, you know, despite all this chaos in Minneapolis, it seems like it has been relatively contained to just Minneapolis. Really, it's not on the national scale, though there is a lot of national figures and a lot of national people speaking, right? But now it appears the union, and I'm going to switch the feed up here. We're going to go to Fox Minneapolis. Now it seems like they're going to be holding some sort of press conference calling for a national strike. Now, will this tip into other areas of the country? We see these little protests here and there, but will we have like this in every city in the United States? Now, they were marching in Chicago today. They had a protest in Chicago in the snow. So
This is what democracy looks like.
And normally, you know, when you have these crazy things, the media. Oh, let's listen in. Hold on a second.
University Avenue there at Washington Avenue, and we're going to take you into the Union Hall where the Union rally is just starting. Let's join that in progress.
And what happened to my neighbor is horrific, but it's not surprising given the tactics that have been taking place and what people have been fighting for. And so people have been asking me, like, what do you want the person's legacy to be? And it's like, well, Alex wore scrubs and walked his dog by my house. And that's important. It's an important part of our community. But our community, what makes up our community is that Alex was an ICU nurse, took care of veterans. I'm a special ed teacher. Our community is a working class community. We have immigrants on our neighborhood, Latino immigrants, Somali immigrants. We have queer people, old people, retirees, young people, students, and we are together in struggle. And that's what struggle does. It brings communities together. And that's Alex's legacy. The legacy of Alex for all of us is a legacy of participating in the first general strike in this country since 2006, and before that, since the 1930s. And I don't think it's an accident that the day after hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets, nonviolent, to shut things down, 700 small businesses closed in the Twin Cities. Is it an accident that ICE drove into the center of Whittier and started causing problems for people and trouble for people and escalating with anyone they can? Absolutely not, right? Because for them, they want this story to be about fraud and criminal immigrants and domestic terrorists, right? But that's a lie. And we know that's a lie. And we showed that's a lie, right? What this is about is divide and rule and terror. This is about trying to keep people in their homes afraid. This is about trying to get people to lay down in front of a billionaire-backed authoritarian regime, which we're fighting against in Minneapolis, and we're building a model for how to defeat it over here and around the world. Why was the 20? So there was a general strike in the city on the 23rd. Workers from across the state. I called in sick to work. A lot of you did probably as well. Who here wasn't working on Friday? Woo, woo. There we go. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel powerful because we have power when we leverage it over the economy, right? 700 small businesses closed in the metro area. Why did small businesses close, but big businesses remain open? Because, because small businesses have nothing to benefit from this reactionary right-wing authoritarian regime, right? But who benefits from the killing of my neighbor, from the deportations of immigrants, from war and imperialism and the destruction of the planet? Who benefits from that? It's corporations. And I think when we talk about how to escalate the struggle, we have to talk about how to make billionaires and corporations pay. That means, let's go. That means talking about Delta Airlines and their hub at the airport. That means talking about Target and that means talking about U.S. Bank, 3M, Medtronic, Cargill. I could go down the list further and further. The Mayo Clinic, Honeywell. These are huge corporations that are in our state. These are corporations who have been busting unions for years, and these are corporations who benefit off the divide and rule and terror of ordinary people, and we're going to make them pay. The president of SEIU 26, when he called this, when he was a part of the call on for the strike on Friday, he said the Army. His name's Greg Nomaker. I don't think he's here. He said the army Trump is building to deport immigrants in Minneapolis is the army that will be used to crush working class people. That's right. And that's true, right? It's not an accident that SEIU Local 26 had 15 members deported. And which members were deported? There were people who spoke at union rallies, people who spoke up at press conferences, people who filed labor relations things. Let's be clear about who's being targeted here and what this is about, right? This is about keeping us down and keeping us divided and keeping us afraid so the billionaires get richer and richer. These deportations do not bring down my healthcare bills. These deportations do not make groceries cheaper. They haven't done anything about inflation. This is a distraction that Trump has because he has no answers for working class people, but scapegoat trans people and scapegoat immigrants. But this is a distraction that can kill, right? And that's why we're organizing. So I don't want to give much more because I think the other speakers will do a better job than me. I will just say one short thing is the Chamber of Commerce issued a letter like an hour ago. Signed, it's a who's of the corporate elites of Minnesota. And they're like, oh, we've been mediating between Trump and the governor. Like, I don't know what their mediations look like, but what it's looked like on my block has not been good. These are corporations saying, we want an end to the terror and the instability that's going on. Okay, that sounds nice. Who is responsible for that? They say nothing. They equate what my neighbor was doing and what you were doing on Friday with what ICE is doing out there right now. They're confused, right? They equate the two things. This is not bad versus bad or disruption versus disruption. This is a systematic attack on working people and a nonviolent mass campaign to shut it down, right? So let's be clear to those business leaders. This is not, it's not everyone go home and then let them continue to deport people.
Right.
This is about building the struggle and fighting back. They're on the wrong side of this. They have been from the beginning, but we need to show it, right? And that's what we're here to talk about today. So. I'm going to bring up Kieran Knutson. He's the president of the CWA 7250. He has amazing lessons about how to organize the strike, the work that they did, and a lot of important things to say. He also is a member of the Black Hat Worker Collective, which played an invaluable role in building the strike. And he can talk more about what that means as well, right? And so I'm going to bring Kieran up and we'll go through the program and then think, what do you have to say? Because that part's coming soon. Kieran, go ahead. You have to yell it.
Hey, everybody. Proud to be here, proud of our people. I have a few things I want to say. I want to start off, though, by just having a little bit, I want to just say a few names and then talk about that for a second. We know Renee Good was murdered while observing and trying to stand up to ICE on January 7th. She was a queer woman, a mother, a poet, and an activist. Not enough people know that Victor Manuel Diaz, who was abducted in Minneapolis, died in one of their detention camps on January 14th. If everyone has their phone right now, please pull it out for a second. Look up Victor Manuel Diaz, get his picture, put it in your phone, and start posting about him as well. All right? Everybody needs to know his name as well. And then yesterday, Alex Pretti, who was a nurse at the VA hospital. My partner is an amazing woman and a nurse and at Children's Hospital and a union activist and a strike leader. And I know that it just hit her really, really hard to know that another union nurse had been killed. And if everyone has seen that video, then we know that it was a death squad that was on our streets on 26th and Nicollet, a place, I think we've all probably run through that neighborhood lots of times. I know I have. If you're from the city, that's a spot you've been at. Let's be really clear about what we're dealing with here. We are dealing with a vicious enemy that wants to control us and is willing to murder us in order to have that kind of control. So this is not something that's going to be a policy changed, right? It's not a matter of getting some new politician in there with a different take on this. This is a vicious life or death enemy. We are not there to observe them. We are not there to denounce them. We are there to defeat them. There is nothing else that matters. And not only that, we have to understand where this came from, where this enemy came from. We're not just trying to get back to 2025. Right. We are trying to get rid of this whole entire rotten system that has produced this crisis that we're in today.
Shut it down!
But let's have a real understanding about what's happened so far. What's happened so far is that our communities have been resilient and strong. Let's understand that the Native people in this city have stood up strong against ICE, have been so generous with their understanding and analysis and given us the context that this whole thing is taking place in, and have put their bodies on the lines, and many of them have suffered at the hands of these motherfuckers who dare to call them illegal aliens, right? Let's talk about the Black and Latino community on the north side, that when they dared to come up there and shoot a Venezuelan man who was working fucking DoorDash and had these motherfuckers on his tail, how that community fucking showed it how it's done and put those motherfuckers on the run, and they had to leave 6 vans. All right. Let's make sure we give props where props are due. Or let's talk about the Somali community, who have been fearless, standing up to these motherfuckers. I hope to be one day as articulate as all of the Somali Uber and truck drivers who stand up to ICE and tell them exactly what time it is. Let's recognize for a moment the women and the queer folks who have been leading this movement in the neighborhood rapid resistance, on the streets, and everywhere. This movement would not exist, would not function, would be a bunch of fucking ego-tripping assholes if it wasn't for women and the queer folks who have been advancing this movement day by day. And let's start talking about working class people as a whole. And we have to understand our class as a whole. It is all of those groups that I've been talking about and everyone else. Okay? That is the working class. There is an old song that comes out of the labor movement, Solidarity Forever, and it says that without our brain or muscle, not a single wheel can turn. Say that with me, please. Without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. Okay? So when we think these motherfuckers are so powerful and we go to our work every day and we have to take shit from our boss and our managers about what we're not doing right or not doing fast enough or not doing enough, it can feel like we are weak and powerless. You just want to fucking close out. You want to go home. You want to get away from it. But please remember, they are not the really powerful people. If they don't show up to work, nobody fucking notices. But when we don't show up to work, nothing fucking runs. None of this is going to be easy. None of this is going to be easy. I was hanging out with my sister and her friends after the strike. She's a cool queer artist, and she's got this cool group of queer women friends that are so nice and fun to be around, especially after a moment like this. And they were talking about all the safety and security concerns and how some of it can be a way of actually centering ourselves or making it about ourselves. What is my personal safety? How safe am I? You know, let's talk about some real shit here, because safety is a bit of an illusion here, right? I'm not saying we can't be strategic and be smart about what we're doing. We have to. We have an obligation to ourselves and our neighbors and our families and our friends to move smartly. But let's not have any illusions. None of us are safe, okay? And in fact, now is not the time to be thinking about how can I be safe. Now is the time to be thinking about what can I do to have an impact on this situation. That's right. That's the priority. So my sister said, you know, and this is cool in a way, and I do it myself. You know, when you're greeting people, you're running into old friends, you're like, be safe, be safe. But she was saying to me and to all of us hanging out, she said, instead, we need to start saying, be brave. All right? So when we're leaving our friends, when we're shaking hands, let's say, be brave, be brave. All right? Speaking of bravery, just a little bit in our workplace, I want to talk a little bit about what we did. I represent workers at AT&T and at ADT Home Security and at DirecTV and at Activision. And we started having conversations about this early on, about what was going on. And we started to talk about the need to have some kind of political strike, some kind of political action where workers withdrew their labor. And we got some kind of tentative agreements from some other unions about how this could go forward. And then when Renee Good was killed, I'm sorry, my mouth is getting dry here. When Renee Good was killed, we said it's got to happen soon. It's got to really happen soon. And so we talked to everybody in our workplace. Our executive board voted unanimously to endorse this day of action. I think we were the second union after SEIU 26 to sign on. And then we started talking actively to our workforce about what we could do. Now, there were these CBAs in U.S. labor law. They've created this whole thing of labor law in order to contain and stop workers from taking action. And these no strike clauses that make it illegal to go on strike, or your union can be sued for a whole bunch of money, and all your members' dues money could be taken away from you. So it's not an easy thing. And a lot of labor leaders, believe it or not, are not the most courageous people in the world. And so they get real nervous about this shit, right? But thank you, brother. Sister. Love you.
All right, you've just been listening to one of the representatives here this afternoon talking about.
They basically dipped off from this. So that was a unions there in Minneapolis calling for a national a strike about the situation. Let's see. Let me get something else. Let me get the police chief of Minneapolis who spoke to, I think it was Face the Nation. Yes, he spoke to Face the Nation. Now, if they go back here on the protest, we'll go back too. But I want to put this up because we want to hear from everybody, right? We want to hear where everyone is at a day after the shooting of Alex Pretti. We want to know about, what people are thinking, what people are saying, where this goes, kind of, by the politicians kind of indicate, or the people, elected officials and people in positions of trust of, where they see this and what they're saying here. I don't see any type of working together here. I see everyone digging in. So this is Face the Nation. This is the chief of police for Minneapolis who speaks today, just a few hours ago.
We're joined now by the city's police chief, Brian O'Hara. Chief, welcome to Face the Nation.
Good morning, Margaret.
What have you been able to learn about the shooting? Because we did just hear the claims by Secretary Noem and Mr. Bovino and their version of what happened. Do the videos and evidence back up their descriptions?
So unfortunately, we don't have any official information from federal law enforcement about what has happened. Even when our officers initially responded to the scene, our watch commander was not given even the most basic information that is typical in a law enforcement involved shooting, just to ensure that there is potentially no other victims. Since then, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension responded to the scene at my request. They were blocked from the scene yesterday, but they have since returned to the scene and are now canvassing for additional witnesses and evidence that may be there.
So do I understand you saying that Minnesota has just begun its investigation today?
There were attempts yesterday to begin the investigation. I do not know what, if anything, was conducted yesterday. I do know that while they were at the scene more than once, they were not permitted to enter before the scene then was contaminated.
And for our viewers, Minnesota is a little bit different. There is this Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. That's the state agency that investigates use of force incidents. They are separate from your police force. But from what you have seen in the public space and heard from federal officials, is there any evidence that you know of that Pretti was assaulting the federal officers as the Border Patrol chief claims?
Well, I've seen the videos just as thousands of people around the country have, and the videos speak for themselves. I think it's deeply concerning, the things that are being said. This is an individual that was a city resident. It appears that he was present, exercising his First Amendment rights to record law enforcement activity, and also exercising his Second Amendment rights to lawfully be armed in a public space in the city. So I think very obviously there are serious questions that are being raised. And I think the greater issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city.
What do you mean it doesn't matter at this point? You mean the situation on the ground is already, the impression is left?
People have had enough. This is the third shooting now in less than 3 weeks. The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we didn't shoot anyone. And now this is the second American citizen that's been killed. It's the third shooting within 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
People have been speaking out, saying that this was going to happen again. And I think everyone is kind of waiting for folks on both sides to come together and just figure this thing out. This is not sustainable. This police department has only 600 police officers. We are stretched incredibly thin. This is taking an enormous toll trying to manage all of this chaos on top of having to be the police department for a major city. It's too much.
Are you calling on ICE to leave?
We understand that for as long as there has been ICE, there has been immigration enforcement in Minnesota. The problem is not that enforcement is happening, it's clearly the manner in which these things are happening. These tactics are very obviously not safe, and it is generating a lot of outrage and fear in the community.
Let me ask you about what we know, because DHS claims that Pretti had a weapon on him. You said that you implied Pretti was carrying at the time of the incident when you said he was a legal firearm owner with a license to carry. Do you know if the weapon remained concealed, or was it ever brandished?
I have seen different experts and people analyzing the video that have made statements about that. I cannot speculate, but I don't have any evidence that I've seen that suggests that the weapon was brandished.
Okay, because we checked, the Minnesota gun permit rules allow for concealed carry, and there are no restrictions on carrying in a protest.
Yes.
But the Homeland Security Secretary
Yes, that's right.
said that he had 2 cartridges on him in addition to the gun. I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. The FBI director said you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest. Are they on firm legal ground in Minnesota?
You have a Second Amendment right in the United States to possess a firearm. And there are some restrictions around that in Minnesota. And everything that we see that we are aware of shows that he did not violate any of those restrictions. He is not a convicted felon, and he is someone that did have a permit for the handgun to carry it.
So did he have magazines full of ammunition at the scene? Because both the President of the United States and the Border Security Chief said that he did, and Bovino directly accused you of not saying that publicly. He said the police chief omitted the fact that the suspect had a gun and magazines full of ammunition.
Well, what they are omitting is that they are not sharing any information with us, and that they blocked state law enforcement, which is the agency that conducts the overwhelming majority of police-involved shootings, from the scene. So I don't know how I'm supposed to share information with the public that they are not sharing with us.
So you have not seen evidence that there were multiple magazines, but would it even be illegal if that were the case?
I don't think there's any relevance. If someone is lawfully exercising their Second Amendment right to carry, the only question would be if they were using the weapon for an unlawful purpose.
I want to ask you about some of the things that the Vice President also has said about local authorities. The Vice President said that local police have been told to stand down when immigration authorities call 911 asking for help dealing with crowds surrounding them. Were you ever ordered to stand down? Have police been told not to protect ICE?
It is deeply disappointing to have anyone question and disparage the hard work of the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department. There are 600 police officers that are left here after the destruction of the city in 2020, and they are doing an incredible job. About a dozen of our cops have been injured responding to a lot of the chaos that has resulted on the streets. Our officers respond every time there's a threat to someone's life, to public safety, or destruction in the city. And it doesn't matter whether it's because ICE is there or someone from the community is there. We are doing everything that we can to manage this chaos, but there's only 600 cops here, and there's thousands of immigration agents here.
Right, nearly 3,000 as we understand it. The Vice President and Secretary Noem said Minneapolis is uniquely chaotic, but they also pointed to sanctuary city policies and said that if those policies weren't in place, these are policies that prohibit you from assisting federal immigration operations, that none of this would really be happening. How do you respond to that claim that because of these sanctuary city policies, you are being forced into this position?
Well, there's policies and laws that have been the case here for decades, and it's not on the Minneapolis Police Department or local law enforcement, to hand folks over that are in jails. The city police do not operate a jail. That's at the county level, and the prisons are at the state level. So we are complying with the law as we have been for many years. And I don't know what else could possibly be asked of this very, very, understaffed and overstretched police department.
And now you have the National Guard, I understand, assisting you. Is this sustainable now that you have the Guard supporting you? Do you have any idea of how long these protests will last?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we had to do an emergency recall. We asked for mutual aid from the state, county, and all of local law enforcement around the metro. It was very clearly an emergency, and we requested the National Guard. As of this morning, we have released all of mutual aid as well as the National Guard partners. And it's back to just the Minneapolis police responding to calls and trying to protect the city. But this is absolutely not sustainable. Our cops are tired, they are thin stretched as it is, and we have a job to do trying to keep the people of this city safe.
So before this shooting, CBS reported that there were at least 10 people from the Minneapolis U.S. Attorney's Office who had resigned. We know the FBI agent resigned after being told to stop investigating the officer who shot Renee Good. What is local law enforcement experiencing beyond your officers, but in the U.S. Attorney's Office, in your local FBI?
I mean, the sad part of this is the incredible work that we have done with all of federal law enforcement over the last few years to get real criminals put away, gang members, people that are shooting folks out here, smuggling fentanyl into this city. We've worked with all of these federal law enforcement agents that live in Minnesota. And it's so upsetting to see so many of them disparaged and so many of them walking away, because it is destroying the foundation of addressing violent crime in Minnesota that's produced incredible results over the last few years.
Police Chief O'Hara, we wish you well and peace for your city. Thank you for your time.
All right. So interesting. What do you think? What do you think about the police chief, his assessment of the situation, what he had to say? One thing that stands out to me is a lot of people now, we'll just say, defending his right to carry at a peaceful protest. But these are the same people that are actually trying to abolish the Second Amendment. That's my take on that. I mean, these were people for years trying to get rid of guns, but now we're saying it's okay to go to a protest with a gun. So I find that interesting, though. But they were saying that so far in Minneapolis, like 3 people got killed this year, and 2 of them are from ICE. 2 of them are from ICE. So, yeah. Now, I want to share something else. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche spoke to Meet the Press. I want to get this up in the pipeline. You always want to hear these key players here. So I want to get this up here. He speaks to Meet the Press. We're going to keep the conversation going. I'm just, sharing everyone that speaks, everyone, this is the number 2 in the DOJ. This is the number 2 right here. Todd Blanche, number 2, Deputy Attorney General. He speaks to Meet the Press. Let's see what he has to say about something, because, if this is going to get under any type of federal investigation with the shooting or whatnot, and the ICE agent or the Border Patrol agent. See, I want to clarify something too, because we're all getting confused. ICE shooting, Border Patrol shooting, and this was Border Patrol, by the way. But, with these shootings, but everyone, Border Patrol, ICE, it's all under the same umbrella. But will there be a federal investigation? DOJ would be the one investigating. How does the DOJ feel about the situation? Well, they're defending all the federal officers.
And joining me now is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Mr. Blanche, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I do want to start by watching one of those videos of the shooting. And again, I do want to warn our viewers, this is disturbing. Take a look.
They muted it down.
Mr. Blanche, the administration spent all day Saturday arguing that Alex Pretti posed a threat to law enforcement. What exactly do you see in that video that posed a threat to law enforcement?
Well, I'll tell you what I don't see, and I don't see protesting happening. And this narrative that what was happening on that yesterday morning, what was protesting interrupted by ICE, is not what we see. I also do not see a single state and local law enforcement officer there to help. And that should be the narrative that we're talking about, is that what we have is ICE doing isolated operations to get criminals off the street with zero cooperation from the governor, from leadership in Congress, or from the mayor. And so when you see what we just observed, was that peaceful protesting? Of course not. That was a very violent occurrence, because ICE cannot do their job effectively when local law enforcement refuses to help. And that is what is so tragic about what happened yesterday and what's been happening in Minneapolis for the past several weeks, is that ICE is doing all of this work, doing their jobs, and local law enforcement are not being allowed to do a single thing to help. And that is dangerous, as we saw yesterday morning.
Mr. Blanche, respectfully, there are only 600 police officers in Minneapolis. There are 3,000 ICE agents. Local officials there say it strains credulity to think that they can back up every ICE official. But I want to stick to the video and what happened yesterday, the specifics of it. What exactly threatened those law enforcement officials? Did at any point Mr. Pretti brandish a gun?
I can see the same video that everybody else can see, and it's been analyzed up and down for the past 24 hours. But there's obviously an investigation that's ongoing. Secretary Noem talked about that yesterday, which is what we would expect anytime a tragedy like this occurs. But I disagree with you when you say, what was there that looked as if there was a confrontation that was we don't know what happened in the minutes leading up to that. To what we just watched. We don't know what ICE saw, what ICE heard. That's part of the investigation that's going to be happening. But what we did not see, again, we cannot avoid this conversation. What we did not see is a single cop helping with that isolated, targeted effort by ICE to arrest a criminal. And you're right, there are three. Go ahead, sorry.
Did you see him at any point brandish a gun? Have you been told by law enforcement there on the ground that at any point he brandished a gun, that he threatened them with a gun? The video shows he's holding up a cell phone.
No, you can't see what everything is happening. I mean, what you do see is you see several ICE officers surrounding him. You see a violent interaction with the man who was shot. And so we don't know. The video, no matter how many times you look at it, no matter how many different angles that we see, there's a lot that we don't see. And that's exactly why you have to have an investigation, which is exactly what DHS is doing and exactly what we would hope that they would do. But you can't tell exactly what happened. It was a very instant violence. These law enforcement, ICE has a very tough job. It is very hard when they're walking, trying to do their job, and there are agitators and rioters everywhere. These men and women are not protesting. They are not peacefully protesting. They are trying to impede and obstruct ICE, and it makes the job that our men and women have to do virtually impossible to do without interactions like that. And yes, yesterday's shooting was a tragedy. And yes, we feel a ton of sympathy for the family and friends of the deceased. But make no mistake about it, this was entirely avoidable. If we had a governor, if we had a mayor, if we had leadership in Washington and over Minnesota that actually cared about their citizens, this would never have happened because there would be law enforcement on the streets helping ICE.
Mr. Blanche, I just want to stay on this. The local officials do say Alex Pretti was a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry. The video seems to show at one moment an officer removing a gun in the seconds before Mr. Pretti was shot. Was he disarmed before those shots were fired?
I do not know, and nobody else knows either. That's why we're doing an investigation. It does appear that he was armed. I have heard the same thing you have, that he was lawfully armed, and that's something that's important in this country. And there's nothing wrong with anybody lawfully carrying firearms. But whether he was disarmed or whether he pulled the gun on law enforcement, whether law enforcement saw him go for the gun, what they have to do is they have to protect themselves. They have to protect the public around them, and we'll see what happens. But just make no mistake about it. This was an incredibly split-second decision that had to be made by ICE officers confronting a very complicated, violent situation with not a single local law enforcement officer in sight.
Well, Alex Pretti, I mean, he is a member of the public. He's a resident there. I mean, this is an American citizen. He's an ICU nurse at a VA hospital. He appears to be shot some 10 times. There are a group of law enforcement officials who pummel him, who spray tear gas at him, pepper spray. Why shouldn't every American be bothered by what they see in this video, Mr. Blanchard? Are you bothered by what you see in this video?
Absolutely. Every American should be bothered. But what should they be bothered by? They should be bothered that ICE is going on an isolated arrest to arrest a criminal, and they have zero support from law enforcement. The narrative here
Shouldn't they be able to make decisions on their own,
happened
Mr.
yesterday.
Blanche? You're talking about state and local officials, and that is a debate worth having. What, if any, support are they getting? But in that instance, should they be able to make a decision about how to respond on their own? And if they can't, should they not be in that position in the first place?
They make decisions all day, every day. There are 3,000 ICE officers in one city. We have tens of thousands of ICE officers all over the country. They make very difficult decisions all day, every day, trying to protect the American people. And what we see all over the country, save a few sanctuary cities like Minneapolis, is we see cooperation and support. And so the reason why we don't see this violence all over the country is because in every single jurisdiction, save a few, like Minneapolis, there is cooperation. You work together with local law enforcement. Police are there to assist with crowd control and rioters and the violent acts that we see happening. And again, this is not a peaceful protest. He was not protesting peacefully. He was interrupting an ICE operation.
Please finish.
He was interrupting an ICE operation, and that led to a very tragic occurrence that every single person in this country hoped did not happen. But make no mistake about it, you cannot look at a 10-second video and judge what happened. You have to look at it from a full situation of what's been happening in Minneapolis for the past several weeks, which is a simple fact. One city in this country do we have these problems. One city, and that's Minneapolis.
But Mr.
It's
Blanche,
not a reflection of ICE, that's a reflection of that city.
You're saying he wasn't protesting peacefully, and yet the video before shows him holding up a cell phone, directing traffic. The video after shows him being pummeled by these law enforcement. Everyone has now seen this video across the country with this man holding up a cell phone. And part of the outrage that people are expressing is that they feel as though the federal government is asking them to believe something that they don't see with their own two eyes. Is that what the administration is asking of the American people, to believe that he was violent, when the video, based on what everyone has seen so far, does not show that?
Well, first of all, I did not say he was violent. I said he was not protesting peacefully. And you just described what every American has seen, which is video shortly ahead of the incident, where he was screaming in the face of ICE. He had a phone up right to the right into ICE's face. You tell me, is that protesting peacefully? I mean, we all see the same thing. I mean, you shouldn't try to gaslight the administration about what happened. That was not a peaceful protest. And yes, what happened afterwards is tragic. It is horrible. It is heartbreaking. But make no mistake about it, that would have never happened. That would have never happened. And it doesn't happen in cities around this country every single day. But for the complete failure by the mayor and by the governor to do anything to protect their citizens. They park their officers blocks and blocks away while they just let ICE go, and they let citizens just come and do whatever they want to try to torment and to try to agitate officers doing their job.
Mr. Blanche, this shooting happened Saturday morning. Mere hours later, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and others labeled Mr. Pretti a domestic terrorist. His family released a statement that reads in part, quote, "The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He has his phone in his right hand and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed." What is your response to his family?
My response is that we have nothing but sympathy for the family of him. We do. But make no mistake, this is an investigation that's ongoing. And long before Secretary Noem took the stage yesterday, the mayor and the governor took their own narrative and said a bunch of things that were just as false and just as misleading and just as horrible as anything that we've heard over the past month. And so we will do everything that we need to do to protect the men and women of ICE when the state and local government refuse to do so. And so, yes, we are sympathetic. President Trump is sympathetic. The Attorney General is sympathetic. ICE is sympathetic. Nobody wants any lives to be taken. But we are doing very important work in very difficult circumstances to make this country safe. There was an isolated arrest effort yesterday to arrest somebody that did not belong in this country. He's here illegally and he's a convicted felon. ICE should be able to do that with cooperation and support, not with what we saw happening yesterday.
Well, let me ask, just big picture, Mr. Blanche, is the death of U.S. citizens a price the Trump administration is willing to pay to carry out its immigration policies?
What does that have to do with whether it was a U.S. citizen or not? Any death is wrong.
Two of the deaths
should
were
not
U.S.
happen in law
citizens.
enforcement.
Two of the people killed were U.S. citizens. President Trump said his goal was to deport the worst of the worst people. My question for you is this part of the collateral damage, something that the administration is willing to accept as a part of its crackdown on people who are here illegally?
It shouldn't be. It should not be. And you don't see it anywhere in this country. I mean, I'm very confused about why the conversation is about what you're talking about, instead of focusing on what really matters, which is why in one city, in one place do we have these problems. We deport 10 times the number of illegal aliens out of Texas than we do out of Minneapolis. Why do we hear nothing out of Texas about any of the same problems that we have in Minneapolis? I'll tell you why. Because in Texas, we have the cooperation and support of local law enforcement so that we can do these operations safely, keeping U.S. citizens and others protected and safe. That is not what we have in Minneapolis. And the fact that it's the administration that's being blamed for the utter failure of leadership in Minneapolis is not right. It's not appropriate.
But are
and
you
it's also
saying those
not
officers
true.
bear no responsibility? Those federal officers who fired 10 shots yesterday bear no responsibility for the death of this 37-year-old ICU nurse?
I did not say that. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say that. I said there's an investigation ongoing, but I said that the story and the narrative around this cannot be just of those officers that were forced to do what they had to do yesterday to keep the operation going as it should go without any support. That has to be the narrative. That has to be what we're talking about. And the fact that the only thing we're talking about is somehow blaming officers, blaming the federal men and that were on the scene that day, and not looking at why it happened, not looking at why it's only in Minneapolis that we see this violence, we are missing the narrative and missing what we should be talking about.
That's the broader backdrop debate. But let me talk to you more broadly about the actions of federal agents in Minnesota this week. I want you to look at these pictures, Mr. Blanche, a protester on the ground being pepper sprayed, a 5-year-old being detained, a U.S. citizen being pulled out of his home half naked, later released upon determination that he was wrongfully detained. Are federal agents acting humanely, Mr. Blanche?
Yes, our agents are acting humanely. Their jobs are very, very difficult. It is a very difficult place to be, going out and trying to arrest these violent felons with no support from local law enforcement, with no support from the governor. Remember, there's a much easier way to do this. When these violent criminals who are here illegally are ready to get out of prison, the mayor could just let us know. We could go get them from prison and deport them. They refuse to do that. And so the result of that is that ICE officers have to go out onto the streets and make arrests. And that is tough work. These are very difficult times. And it is something where you see thousands of arrests, and you've identified 2 or 3 things that are pointed to as being wrong or being too aggressive or not being appropriate. That's not fair to the men and women that are doing this every day.
Again, there are 600 police officers in Minneapolis compared to 3,000 ICE agents. I do want to shift gears, though. I want to ask you quickly about the Epstein files. When you were here back in December, you said the Justice Department will comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Quote, you said next week and the week after. DOJ is now 37 days past the statute's December 19th deadline. Less than 1% of the files have been released. So, Mr. Blanche, when will all of the Epstein files be released?
Look, we've been working literally 7 days a week to go through all the materials, but there is nothing more important than protecting the victims. And that means that every single page that we're going to release, we have to lay eyes on and make sure that we're redacting all appropriate information. We will not rush that process. We will not risk victim information being released. And I would hope that Congress doesn't want us to do that. And I would expect that they expect us to do our job. And so we have over 500 Department of Justice lawyers working on it every day. I expect that we will see the release of the materials soon.
So when will it be released? Soon? How soon?
Well, listen, there are millions and millions of pages we're looking at, and I'm not gonna create an artificial deadline that I then miss for our men and women that are working on it. But we're working on it very hard, and when we know a date of release, we'll let the public know and let Congress know. But it is soon. It is very soon. We've been working on it now for over a month, reviewing hundreds of thousands of pages over the course of every few days, and we're continuing to do that.
All right, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Meet the press, Todd Blanche speaking. Thoughts, share. Let's review. Share what you think. I want to share something else. I think this reporter, Kristen, is really good because she really presses any and everybody when she has them on the program every Sunday. She presses with questions. She's a president. Some people think she's lying. Some people think she's telling the truth. I think she holds people to the fire, holds their feet to the fire, right? Puts Todd Blanche on the hot seat. Plus, this was like an 18-minute interview. DOJ's backing the ICE and Border Patrol no matter what. No matter what with the situation. They know the stakes here. It is no secret out there that the Trump administration, and some of you agree with it, some of you don't, that there was a border invasion, southern border, 15 to 30 million people crossed in from 21 to 2024. They're all around in the cities, all around. Minneapolis seems like the case where you don't have officials there cooperating with the Trump administration. So what do? They bring in 3,000 Border Patrol ICE agents, and they're rounding these people up. City officials don't like it. Border Patrol and ICE on a daily basis. Protesters, agitators, anarchists, insurrectionists, whatever you want to call them, heckle, harass them, terrorize them. protest in front of them, confront them day in and day out. Tensions are high. Tensions are high. That's where we're at. Now, what you heard Blanche say, and I do agree with him on this assessment, is where's the police? There's no police in Minneapolis that are intervening and getting in the middle of this to kind of make sure everyone's safe on both sides. There's no police. It's a very volatile tinderbox situation. Now, with that being said, I want to share something that's crazy right now, that is going viral right now. I don't know the truth to this, but what you're going to see here is the Minnesota National Guard. And they're out there by the Whipple building, and they're out there, but there's a clip of them in yellow protective vests, and they're actually distributing donuts, according to this report, to protesters. They're offering donuts to the protesters. This is pretty wild here. Donuts to the protesters.
It's almost Valentine's Day.
It makes you wonder whose side is the Minnesota National Guard on? Are they on the side of law and order, or are they side on protesters and that side, giving donuts, or are they just trying to show, hey, we're on your side, here's some donuts, here's some coffee? What's going on here? I mean, if there's truth to this, I mean, this is, there's videos that circulate. Who are they giving donuts to? If it ain't the protesters, who are they giving the donuts to? Each other? Donuts. They're just trying to keep the peace, trying to calm the situation, middle ground. Maybe they're doing it so they don't get attacked. How long is the Minnesota National Guard? Now, another thing is going to be interesting is Minnesota sent their National Guard. Now, what is Minnesota going to do if the Trump administration invokes the Insurrection Act or sends the National Guard, other National Guard from other states there? Can Minnesota say that's not justifiable when Minnesota did it themselves and deployed the National Guard? Because remember, with the National Guard going to Chicago, going to Portland, Los Angeles, officials are like, it's not needed, it's not needed, they're not needed, they're not needed. Well, could the Trump administration say, look, you people sent your National Guard there. Why can't we send ours? What do you mean federalized National Guard, which would probably be from other states? Because as we saw with Chicago, they were bringing up National Guard from Texas. In Washington, D.C., we would see the West Virginia National Guard there. In Portland, they were sending like the Idaho National Guard, other states. This is the National Guard based off party lines. Whatever state votes, that's who the National Guard is going to go protect their constituents. Like, for instance, like in this particular case, you federalize the National Guard, you can just bring Republican National Guards from other Republican states, while Walz has the National Guard there protecting Democratic institutions. This is a partisan. This whole thing is partisan. Also, I want to share something else that's popping up here. Now, there's a protest in downtown Minneapolis. It just looks like they're down there speaking now, but I want to put this up because they were protesting today in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I want to put this up here and just show you the march here. This was just a little bit ago, and they were literally marching. Let me get this up. And just to show you, we got to keep aware of what's going on. This is Green Bay, Wisconsin. So they have taken the streets in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Is it a lot of people? Well, looks like maybe 100 or so. Alex, Keith, Renee murdered by ICE. So we want to see if this spreads. Protest. I'm going to keep it here for a minute. Protest. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now, that's neighboring state, right? Protest, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Alex Pretti. Yesterday, a lot of the media was saying Alex Pretti. It's Pretti. Sometimes I butcher names. Now, this is not live. This was today. This was just maybe like 20 minutes ago. I saw it pop up while we were playing Todd Blanche, but I just kind of want to just show. Well, no, actually, there's a lot of people out there. Actually, because look on the bridge. Actually, there's quite a few people out there. Well, let me look a little bit more into this and see if they're still live here. All right, so yeah, I actually reversed it back some, but I can actually put it forward. But just to show you who's out here. Anti-ICE rally in Green Bay following shooting. An anti-ICE protest is being held in downtown Green Bay, Wisconsin. Oh, one day after Preble High School graduate Alex Pretti was shot. So apparently he's from here. That's what it seems like. Okay, so it appears he went to high school in Green Bay. That's why they're out there. Ah, okay. So like he graduated from the high school there, Preble, Preble High School in 2006. This is where he's from. So they're protesting in Green Bay because he went here. Now, let me fast forward this some to the current live. Here is current live. This is current live.
Alex Pretti, after he was killed in Minneapolis yesterday by federal law enforcement officers. We've had people chanting abolish ICE, calling out the Trump administration for their description of Pretti. Good afternoon from downtown Green Bay. It's Fox 7's Eric Morris, where we've had people cover city walk and cross both bridges here in downtown to protest against ICE and show support for Alex Pretti, a Harvard graduate who was killed in Minneapolis by ICE agents. Now, we've heard from both sides. One side saying that Pretti... I can't do this. I can't do it.
He's having problems doing his reports, probably because it's so cold out there. What's the temperature in Green Bay? It's probably just as cold as Green Bay as it is. What's Green Bay weather? Green Bay weather. Let's see. Green Bay weather. Survey says 7 degrees. Ooh. 7 degrees. 7 degrees out there. Going down to -6. Wind 6 miles an hour. So it's cold out there. It's just as cold as there. It's a little bit warmer there than it is in Minneapolis.
If anything, I'll say people kept trying Good afternoon from downtown Green Bay. Fox 11's Eric Morris here. We've had people cover City Deck and cross both bridges here in downtown to protest against ICE and show support for Preble graduate Alex Pretti after he was killed over the weekend by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Now, we've heard the Trump administration describe Pretti as a domestic terrorist. We've heard from people here that knew him that say exactly the opposite. He was just a regular guy that was never violent or anything like that. Like I don't know what to say. I'm not. We're done. I need to leave. Like, again, I'm trying to be there and down the middle here, but like, I'm one. I can't even say they called him domestic.
He's having problems doing his news report. He said, "I can't do this. I can't do this. Just wing it, dude. It's pretty easy." Hi, this is Fox News reporter out here live, downtown Green Bay, anti-ICE protest. The shooting victim, Alex Pretti, from here, went to Preble High School. We're out here monitoring the situation. Back to you. Easy. It's too cold. The cold, man, cold can rattle your nerves, rattle your skin. This is Fox News reporter out here in the cold, frozen tundra. Remember those Green Bay? Remember the Green Bay Packer videos, the football videos from the 1960s and 70s? Out here at the frozen tundra. Cold out there, man. Cold can rattle your bones and rattle your skin, rattle your take you out of sync, shivering. But they say these people are used to it. Once you live up in the cold, you're more used to it than someone like a Floridian. You know, I used to watch football and I used to watch the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay Bucks were a pretty good team back in 2003. But they had this streak for a while, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Any sports stadium that they played football where it was like 35 or below, they were like 0 for like 50. They could not win a game when the temperature was 35 or below. Because, up in the wintertime of these northern stadiums that were outside, brutally cold, you just can't do it. And that's kind of like how I am originally from Pennsylvania, but you go down to Florida and you go up in the cold. That's why like these protesters out there, I couldn't do it. 10 degrees for a Floridian is like brutal. Crazy. I'm going to remove this from the screen. Well, I mean, it seems like situation in Minnesota is still going. They're still down the street. I think they got BG on the scene out there. He's out there again doing the great work out there, reporting out there in the cold. But I don't see anything like really popping off like crazy. So I think we covered enough on this topic for now. And we'll come back if need be on this, the weather, whatever else is breaking off. Something breaks off. Now, Portland was pretty wild last night. Unlawful assembly. After we left our stream last night, Portland was like popping off. We'll continue to monitor that. We'll see what's going on. Hopefully there's some peace on Sundays. But tomorrow, I think everything's going to be rocking and rolling, that it's back to business hours, courts open, everything's open. Plus, we might have a government shutdown coming up, something about funding. I've been hearing a lot about the funding. They're not going to fund certain things because of this incident. So we'll stay on that. All right, folks, we cover true crime, breaking news, 24/7, 365 on the channel. Let us know what you think. And we'll stay with this story. Praying for peace. We don't want to see violence. Crazy stuff. Let us know what you think. We'll talk soon. Thanks for watching, folks. JLR Investigates. Stay safe out there.